Good evening. Let your weight settle into whatever is beneath you. The mattress, the pillow, the cushion. Let all of it hold you. There is nothing you need to do tonight. No problem waiting to be solved. No number to hold in your mind. We are going to explore one idea tonight. A single, quiet idea that sits at the center of almost everything in personal finance. It is one of those ideas that once you feel it properly, you begin to see everywhere. In every loan, every savings account, every decision about whether to spend now or wait. And we are going to take our time with it. We are going to turn it over slowly. Look at it from a few different angles. Let it settle into you the way warmth settles when you pull a blanket close. You do not need to remember any of this word for word. You only need to lie still and let it come to you. So let your jaw soften. Let your shoulders drop. Let the room around you be as quiet as it already is. We can begin. Here is the idea. $100 today is worth more than $100 promised to you 1 year from now. Say that again, slowly. The same amount of money, the same number, the same currency is worth more when you hold it now than when it is promised later. When you first hear that, it might feel obvious. Of course, now is better than later. Who wants to wait? But there is something deeper here than preference, something truer than impatience. The reason $100 today is worth more is not simply that today feels more real. It is because of what money can become when it is given time to work. If you have $100 right now, you can do something with it, even something very modest. You could place it in a savings account. You could put it somewhere that earns even a small, quiet return. You could let it sit in a place where it is working for you gently in the background. But if that $100 is only arriving next year, it is not yours yet. It is somewhere else. It cannot work for you. It cannot grow. It is, in a very real sense, frozen, waiting to exist for you while time moves on without it. This gap between now and then, this time during which your money is not yet yours, not yet working, has a cost. A quiet cost, an invisible cost, but a genuine one. That is what the time value of money names. It names the gap. It says, time is not neutral. Time is not free. Every moment that money is delayed is a moment in which it could have been doing something but was not. And once you feel that, really feel it, it changes the way you think about almost every financial question you will ever encounter. Let us find an image to hold this idea in place. Imagine someone offers you a choice. You can have a single apple seed today, right now, placed in your palm. Or you can have that exact same seed in 3 years. Same seed, same potential, every measurable quality identical. If you take it today, you can plant it. You can give it soil and water and time. By the end of 3 years, you might have a small tree, perhaps just a sapling, perhaps already bearing its first fruit. It has been growing this whole time, quietly and without drama, doing what seeds do when you give them the conditions they need. If you take the promised seed 3 years from now, you receive something identical in form, but entirely different in situation. You are 3 years behind. Whatever your neighbor planted the day you received the promise, their tree has 3 years of root and branch and growth that yours does not. The seeds were the same. The timing was not. Money works exactly this way. $100 is $100, the same number, wherever you encounter it. But $100 in your hand today has something that $100 promised for the future does not. It has time. It has the years ahead of it in which it can work, grow, and compound. And those years matter. They matter quietly at first. You might not notice the difference in the first few months, but stretch the window out 5 years, 10 years, 20, and the gap between money you had early and money you received late can become very large indeed. Not because anything dramatic happened, only because time given to money does its patient work. The seed planted today and the seed planted in 3 years are not the same seed, even if they are identical in every other way. That is the time value of money, held in an image you can keep. Now let us look at the quiet cost of waiting from the other direction. Suppose you lend a friend a modest amount of money. You trust them. You hand it over, expecting it back in 2 months. 2 months come and go. Your friend asks for more time. 6 months total, they say. Same amount, I promise. I simply need a little longer. You are generous. You say yes. But here is what happens beneath the surface of that generosity, whether you think about it consciously or not. During those extra months, the months between when the money was supposed to return and when it actually will, that money could have been doing something. It could have been sitting in your savings account earning a small return. It could have been available to you if something unexpected arose. It could have simply been in your possession, part of your financial cushion, something you could act on. Instead, it is elsewhere. It is unavailable to you. The time it spent away is time during which it could not work for you. This is what is meant by opportunity cost. It is not a harsh phrase. It is just an honest one. Every period during which your money is not in your hands is a period in which you lost the opportunity to use it. The lost opportunity was real. The cost was real. It simply was not visible. Most of the time, in small amounts and over short periods, this cost feels negligible. And often it is. The warmth of helping a friend, the ease of a simple arrangement, those things are worth a great deal, and opportunity cost does not cancel them out. But stretch the idea outward. Imagine large sums. Imagine years. Imagine debt that accumulates interest over decades, or savings that never got started because the moment felt wrong. Suddenly, the cost of waiting is not invisible at all. It is the difference between a comfortable future and a difficult one, between a loan that stayed manageable and one that grew quietly heavier than anyone expected. Understanding opportunity cost does not make you less generous or less patient. It makes you wiser. It helps you see the full picture. The whole picture, not just what you see, but what you cannot see. The quiet cost running along in the background. But here is the beautiful reversal. Everything we have said about the cost of waiting, the delayed money, the opportunity lost, the river flowing without your boat, all of that runs in the opposite direction when you are the one who is patient with your own money. If you have money today and you do not need it today, and you place it somewhere sensible and leave it alone, time stops being a cost and becomes something closer to a gift. You are not waiting helplessly. You are lending time to your money. You are giving it the runway it needs. And this is where something remarkable happens. Growth in the world of money tends to build on itself. The small amount you earned last year becomes part of this year's base. And then, the amount this year earns is slightly larger than last year's amount, and the year after that, slightly larger still. This is the nature of compounding, and it is not complicated to understand, even if the numbers grow surprising over time. It simply means that growth accumulates on growth. Interest earns interest. Patience, maintained long enough, rewards itself. And this is why so much financial wisdom returns again and again to the same quiet truth. Earlier is better. Not necessarily more, not necessarily smarter, just earlier. A modest amount set aside now and left to travel will often do more over the long arc of a financial life than a large amount set aside much later. Not always, not in every circumstance, but often, because the earlier money has more time, and time is the resource that cannot be purchased retroactively. You cannot go back and plant a seed 5 years ago. You can only plant it today. And a seed planted today, even a small one, even an imperfect start, has all the years that remain. If you have not begun yet, the best thing you can do is begin now, with whatever is available to you. Not grandly, not dramatically, simply placing the first seed in the ground and trusting the seasons ahead of you to do their quiet work. Here is another way to see the same idea from a slightly different angle. Suppose someone offers you a promise. In 10 years, they say, "I will give you $1,000. They are reliable. You believe them completely. The promise is absolutely certain. Now ask yourself, how much would you pay today for that promise? Would you pay $1,000 for it? Probably not. Because if you gave away $1,000 today and received exactly 1,000 back in 10 years, you would have come out behind. $1,000 today, placed somewhere sensible and left to work, would become more than 1,000 in 10 years. So to give 1,000 now and receive only 1,000 then is to lose something, the growth that your money could have earned in the interval. You would pay something less than 1,000. How much less depends on how much your money can grow in the meantime, but definitely less. And this is the process called discounting. Discounting is simply the time value of money, running backwards. Instead of asking what money today becomes in the future, you ask what future money is worth right now, today, given that today's money has the ability to grow? And the answer is always a little less than the number written on the promise. Because future money is real. It is genuine. But it is not the same as money you hold today. It is money seen across a distance of time, and distance in the world of money always carries a cost. Banks do this constantly. When they offer you a mortgage or a personal loan, they have calculated what your future payments are worth to them in today's terms. That calculation, that discounting determines what they are willing to lend you and at what rate. Companies do it when they decide whether a new project is worth the upfront cost. They estimate what the future returns will be, discount them back to the present, and ask, is what we will eventually receive worth more than what we must spend today? You do not need to perform these calculations yourself. You only need the feeling of them, the quiet sense that a promise of future money is worth a little less than money you already hold, and that the further away the promise, the smaller its weight in your hand today. That instinct, held gently, is genuinely useful. This is where the idea becomes quietly remarkable. Because once you understand the time value of money, once you feel it, not just hear the words, you see it inside almost every financial situation you have ever encountered. Think about a mortgage. When a bank lends you money to buy a home, they are essentially exchanging a large amount today for a stream of smaller payments stretched across many years. Those future payments have to be worth more in total than what they gave you today, because they gave up the use of that money, and time has a price. The interest rate you pay is not arbitrary. It is the bank's price for waiting. Think about a pension or a retirement account. When you contribute each month, you are converting today's money into future money. You are saying, I do not need this right now. Let it work. Let it grow. Let it compound. Let time do the heavy lifting so that when I need it, it arrives as something larger than what I put in. The entire logic of retirement saving is the time value of money, running in your favor. Think about paying off a debt early. Every extra payment you make on a loan does something that may not feel dramatic in the moment. It shortens the time during which interest accumulates. It reclaims time. It cuts off months or years during which that borrowed money would have continued to cost you something. Paying off debt early is one of the quietest and most effective uses of the time value of money available to most people. Think about keeping money idle. Money that sits completely still, not earning anything, not in any account, not working in any way, is not neutral. It is slowly losing ground, because the prices of things tend to rise gently over time. What $100 could buy today will cost a little more in 5 years, and a little more still in 10. Money sitting idle in cash does not grow to meet that rising cost. It stays the same number while the world quietly becomes a more expensive place around it. The time value of money is working in these situations, whether or not anyone names it. It is the silent force beneath the numbers, the current beneath the surface. Understanding it does not mean you need to recalculate your life. It only means you begin to notice, gently, calmly, which direction the current is running in any given decision. And that noticing is enough. Let us stay with one more thread before the lecture begins to wind down. Inflation. You have heard the word. It names something gradual and almost imperceptible from year to year. The slow upward drift of prices over time. A loaf of bread costs a little more than it did 5 years ago. Rent costs more than it did 10 years ago. These changes are rarely dramatic. They arrive quietly, one small shift at a time, and only become visible over long periods. Inflation is one of the concrete, measurable reasons why the time value of money is true. Money promised to you in the future will arrive in a world where things cost a little more than they do today. Your $100 will still say 100, but what it can buy may be noticeably less. The purchasing power, the real-world usefulness of that money will have gently diminished. This is not a reason for alarm or anxiety. It is simply one of the quiet textures of financial life. It has been true for a very long time. It will likely remain true. And it is something that anyone who thinks carefully about money has already quietly accounted for. The implication is straightforward and gentle. Money that sits perfectly still, not earning anything, not working, tends to lose a small amount of its real value each year. Not dramatically, just a whisper, just the slow drift of a world whose prices are moving while the number on the bill stays fixed. Money that is growing, even modestly, even at a rate that simply matches the drift of prices, is holding its ground. It is staying level with the world it will eventually be spent in. And money that grows a little faster than the drift is, in real terms, becoming more useful, more powerful, more available in the future. This is one reason, among several, why leaving money idle for decades is rarely the right answer. Not because of panic or aggression, simply because the world changes, and money that does not change with it quietly loses ground. A thoughtful, patient approach, placing money somewhere that earns even a modest return, letting it keep pace with the slow drift, is, over many years, one of the most sensible things a person can do. And now, before we arrive at stillness, let us sit with the philosophical dimension of this idea. Because the time value of money is not just a principle of finance. It is a statement about time itself, about the relationship between what you do now and what becomes available to you later. It says that now matters, that the resources you hold today, the choices available to you in this moment, carry a real and unique weight that later cannot replicate. Not because you should be anxious, not because you should rush. The opposite. It says that small, patient, early actions carry more power than dramatic, last-minute ones. It says that beginning, even imperfectly, even modestly, with whatever is available, that beginning is always worth something, always worth more than the same beginning made later. This is deeply calming when you receive it that way. The person who begins slowly, quietly, early, who does not try to be clever, who does not seek spectacular returns, who simply starts and then mostly leaves their savings alone. That person is wielding one of the most powerful forces in personal finance without breaking a sweat, without dramatic action, without expertise or luck. They are simply giving time to their money and letting time do what it does. The person who waits until everything feels right, until the amount feels large enough, until the moment feels perfect. That person is spending the one resource that cannot be recovered. Not money, time. And time, in the world of finance, is the irreplaceable ingredient. This is not a source of guilt for anything not yet done. It is only a gentle encouragement toward whatever comes next. The years ahead, however many they are, still hold their value. The river still flows. The current still runs. The best time to plant a tree was a long time ago. The second best time is always now. is where you are. Here is what I want to say before we close. None of this is entirely new to you. You have felt versions of this truth your whole life. The instinct that getting something sooner feels better than getting it later. The sense that a promise, while real, is not quite the same as the thing in hand. The quiet awareness that time passing without action has a cost. These are not ideas that came from textbooks. They came from being alive, from trading and choosing and waiting and regretting and deciding. Ancient traders felt the time value of their goods as they weighed the risk of a long journey. Would the cargo be worth the same when they arrived, months later? Was the promised price worth more or less than a sale made today? They calculated this not with formulas, but with experience and instinct. Farmers understood it every planting season. To plant grain was to defer, to give up the use of it now in exchange for a harvest later. To eat the seed was to spend. They lived this trade-off every year without naming it. Parents have always felt it when they quietly saved small amounts over long years. Not because they ran calculations, but because they sensed in their bones that a small, steady thing done now becomes a meaningful thing eventually. That beginning early, even modestly, was worth the effort. This is a very old understanding, dressed in modern language, formalized in economics, made precise by mathematics. But underneath all of that, it is simply a truth that humans have always known. You knew it already. You felt it before tonight. What we have done is simply give it a name and turn it over slowly together in the quiet before sleep. And now it sits a little more clearly inside you, not as a formula, not as a rule, as a felt sense, a quiet orientation, a way of noticing calmly which direction time is pulling in any given financial situation. That is enough. It is more than enough. And so we arrive gently at the close. Money today is worth more than the same money tomorrow. Waiting has a price. Patience, directed wisely, has a payoff. Future money is worth a little less than present money, because the present can work in ways the future cannot yet. And this one simple principle lives quietly beneath every loan, every savings plan, every investment, every decision about when to spend and when to wait. You do not need to calculate anything with this. You only need to carry the feeling of it. The feeling that time and money are not separate. That beginning matters. That small things started early can become large things over time, not through magic, but through the patient accumulation that time makes possible. Let the day close around you now. Let the mind go a little quieter. Let the thoughts thin out and soften at the edges. You have learned something real tonight, something old and true and genuinely useful. It will settle further in the days ahead, appearing quietly whenever money and time come up in your life together, which is often, and which will now feel a little more familiar. There is nothing left to do. The room is dark and still. The night is yours. Rest well